My name's Pea Restall. I live in North Wales, in Abergele, and I work mainly in clay, but I also started as an illustrator. Quite often use paper clay when I'm making. I like the whole kind of start to finish process. I make the paper clay, and it feels like I'm involved in every stage of the making, and I can add as much other clay in or change the nature of that paper clay by adding, crank or a very smooth modelling clay if I want a smooth paper clay. Most of the sculpture that I make is based around body parts. So when I make the feet and the hands, I'll start often with drawing, and they're quite loose drawings. They're not always life drawings, although sometimes they are. They're from my head rather than from observation, but then they can be added to from observation. So if I draw a loose hand, then I might then draw a real hand and then go back and draw another loose hand, and then the clay comes somewhere in the middle of that. So I might make a small clay maquette. The way I make them is to get through the firing. So if I make something solid, I'll hollow it out. I make the feet by rolling slabs of clay, and I stretch the slabs by pushing from the inside out to form the physical tendons and the bones. So I do reference the internal structure, but I like it to look human, an element of us. The physicality of that object and the way I make it are all connected. So sometimes when I've made something, I'll hold it and I'll stretch it with my fingers. I like to use my hands in that stretching and forming and pushing out of the slab. And when I make the hands, I carve a lot. So I hold the hands, and I'll use a knife or a wax carving tool, because I sometimes work in wax as well, and I'll carve the hands and make them more human with that carving. I don't want them to be too abstract. I want them to have that recognisable reference to human hands rather than ape hands or something. I like a texture sometimes on the surface, so I roll the slabs for the feet just roll them out normally, and then I sprinkle china clay to dry the surface. So when I stretch the surface, it kind of cracks, and then I rub oxides in to make that crack more obvious. I kind of think they look like they've been dug out from the ground, and I think that's part of the connection I have with ceramics, is that longevity of the material. You can still dig things out of the ground that look as they were made. Inside, I quite often glaze the feet inside just with a white tin glaze, and I paint words, usually words that are connected to the reason I've made that particular set on the inside. So it might just say a fragment or forget, or just random words usually, but they have got a meaning to that piece or what I'm working on at the time. And that's cobalt oxide just mixed with water, painted directly on the unfired glaze and then refired. So the feet are fired 3 times usually, and the hands are the same. They have the oxides rubbed on, and then usually some sort of painting. A lot of the pieces I make are connected with the theory of making as a life direction, as a non-choice. And so a lot of the hand pieces are about the fact that artists have this ability to actually physically create something with their hands. And so the hands are so important to me, but obviously it's head to hand. So quite often I'll put heads in with hands, so it's the thinking coming out through what you're making rather than just a concept being transferred. It physically becomes an object. And then the feet are connected quite often with the action of physically doing something. So it might be connected with walking, or it might be connected with dancing quite often. The the fact that you can physically move and express yourself. And I like dancing, so you know, it kind of links in with things I enjoy.